Joining me now is Republican Congressman Mike Turner from the great state of Ohio. He's the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, really appreciate your time.
Sure, Phil. Thanks,
I feel like throughout the course of the last 12 hours, people have been kind of gotten lost a little bit in semantics. Obviously, there's messaging going on both sides here. You're known as a straight shooter on Capitol Hill. Just to start with, what you've heard, what you've learned at this point in time, do you view this as problematic?
Well, certainly. Well, first off, this is unfortunately overshadowing the fact that this is a successful hit. This was important to do. The Houthis are a franchise, a terrorist arm of Iran. Iran is we want to push back on them. They're being diminished by what Israel's doing with Hezbollah and Hamas. This was an attempt to beginning to diminish them. This was important to do. So this is unfortunately overshadowing this. When I first started hearing their answers, unfortunately, I thought what we're all hearing is legalistic answers. And that as it starts to break down, you're starting to hear the struggling of us all trying to understand the legal answer. And you're getting down to what probably is going to be a legal semantics. And that is this issue of whether or not it was declassified. Clearly, at one point, it must have been logically classified because of the nature of the riskiness of this information and its impact. So that goes to the Secretary of Defense and what action he took to declassify it and putting it on what clearly was a unclassified channel. And that also goes to the issue of judgment and the issue of that this really was not something that the type of communication that should have been happening at such a risky time.
What does that tell you about this administration's national security team right now? You've served with Mike Waltz in the House. You know, obviously, Senator Marco Rubio, who's your compadre, I guess, on some level on the Senate side at SISI, or the Senate Intelligence Committee, before he became Secretary of State. There are Democrats saying, look, this should have never happened. This is an unprepared group. Why on earth are they doing this?
Well, Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio are stars, and they're absolutely essential to, I think, what's occurring in our national security. They are absolute pillars of what's occurring. Now, hold on a second.
Yeah.
But the issue of signal, I think, is one that I think everyone should have caution. And I don't use it because of the fact that what happens is that people get caught up in an unrealistic expectation that there is privacy there. And I think that's kind of what you see is this degradation of people having an expectation that they're in an environment of privacy that they're not.
Shouldn't they know better?
I think certainly, but this human aspect of believing that you're in an environment where people go in and out of secure environments can result in this degradation of an expectation of privacy that you just don't have.
Would you like to see the full exchange? Because I think that's the issue right now. Is Jeff Goldberg saying, this is what I saw? The administration is saying, no, that's not at all what was in there. Jeff Goldberg can't release it. He would be prosecuted, I think, if he did on some level with defense information, potentially in the espionage.
Well, I think we'll see. I mean, obviously, that's going to be part of the dialogue that's going to occur. And I think certainly both with the committees of jurisdiction, there's going to be a greater release. I think certainly the Intelligence Committee in the House, the Intelligence Committee of the Senate have greater work to do, and I think they'll do that work.
And you think the administration should turn over what's being requested?
I think the committees will do the work that they're supposed to do, and I think that exchange will occur. And I think that clearly this should not happen in the future. And I think certainly Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio are doing a great job, and it's certainly important in this that their work be preserved.
And so you don't think there should be any repercussions related to the individuals on this chain, be it the Secretary of Defense or the National Security Advisor?
Well, we'll see as this unfolds or who else might have been involved. But I think certainly this is an issue of judgment, and I think certainly that we'll see as that unfolds. But in this, luckily at this point, we don't see any consequences that have occurred as a result of this issue of judgment. But we do know, I think, that everybody's learned a really great lesson, and certainly signal is something that should not be used in this informal type of communication because of what that risk that can occur that people have that expectation of privacy that you don't have.
I'm being told we're out of time, but I do have to ask you, the policy debate that was ongoing here was actually pretty fascinating to look into, particularly the Vice President, his views on Europe, which were, I think, echoed by Pete Hegseth. What did you take from that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that was kind of concerning, obviously, when you hear the Vice President's interjection, is that the Vice President goes back to his one-hit wonder again about Europe. I mean, I think, the issue with the Houthis and Iran, it really is not an issue of Europe. This is an issue of terrorism. The American public get this. They understand that President Trump is standing strong and that we need to make certain that we're standing against Iran. The issue of Europe is a separate issue that really needs to not be something that should be holding the administration back of America leading and understanding that we stand against Iran and terrorism.
Congressman Mike Turner, always appreciate your time, sir. Thanks so much.
Appreciate having me.